You ever get the feeling someone's just waiting for you to mess up? Like their only job is to make your life harder? That was my every single day reality living in our neighborhood. And the mastermind was no ordinary busybody. It was Karen, our self-appointed HOA monarch. Permanent scowl, whistle dangling like she was on patrol, and a fetish for made-up rules that didn't even exist in the handbook. My truck wasn't pretty. It wasn't a showpiece. It was a heavy-duty work truck, big, practical, and full of everything I needed for a day on the job: lumber, tools, generators, the whole lot. It's how I make a living. To Karen, though, that truck was an affront to her carefully manicured cul-de-sac. She decided it clashed with the vibe and set about waging war. First came the warning letters from the HOA. Then the sticky notes on my windshield, passive-aggressive little reminders that I ought to find a more suitable place for something so substantial. At first I shrugged it off, figured she'd run out of steam. But Karen wasn't that kind of person. Her fixation escalated fast. The first morning I walked out and my truck was gone. My stomach dropped. I thought theft, until the police told me it had been towed. Reason? Karen insisted it was an abandoned vehicle on the street. Never mind that it had been parked in my driveway. I paid the fine, retrieved it, and hoped that was the end. It wasn't. A week later, gone. Then again. Each time, Karen had the tow company show up like clockwork. Each tow cost me hundreds and stole work hours. It stopped being petty and started to look like sabotage. I tried talking to her. Went to her front door, calm as I could manage, explained that the truck was essential to my job. She gave me that smug half-smile and said, "Maybe you should buy a vehicle that fits in a neighborhood like this." Then shut the door. That smugness told me everything. This was personal. Karen had declared open hostilities, and I wasn't about to back down. The morning after that confrontation, I got up with a knot in my gut. Of course, either truck was gone again before sunrise. I swear she was watching from behind lace curtains, waiting to pull the strings. This time, I didn't waste time with cops. I went straight to the tow yard. The guy at the counter barely glanced at my ID and just smirked. Truck's out back. Same as last week. It hit me then. They recognized me. They expected me. This was a racket. I started keeping meticulous records. Photos of the truck in the driveway with timestamps. Videos proving it was never abandoned or blocking anything, every possible scrap of evidence. I filed formal complaints with the HOA. Surprise, Karen sat on the board. Every time I tried to present my case at a meeting, she cut me off with that condescending smile, lecturing about community standards like she was doing me a favor. Meanwhile, my two bills were closing in on $1,000, not counting the business I'd lost. Clients complained. Jobs slipped. Karen seemed to relish it. She strolled the neighborhood, spreading the narrative that I was a slacker who didn't respect the rules. Neighbors glanced my way with suspicion. Defense wasn't working. She wasn't trying to enforce rules. She was trying to break me. I decided passive resistance wouldn't cut it. If she wanted to play bully, I would answer in kind. I started researching, calling around, looking for a fix that would flip the script. Then, during a chat with a construction buddy, the idea landed. Not just an idea, a brilliant little revenge. Something that would sit in my driveway and make Karen's tow scheme impossible without risking real consequences. Something immovable without a major headache. A week later, my driveway didn't stay empty. Instead of my pickup, a massive flatbed pulled in, carrying a gleaming, cold gray steel shipping container, the kind you see stacked in ports, heavy enough to make Karen think twice. I felt a rush of vindication watching it lower onto the concrete, knowing she couldn't just ring up a tow truck and call it a day. That's right, a full-sized industrial shipping container, the kind you'd expect to see stacked in a harbor. I'd rented it from my construction buddy, and when the flatbed dropped it onto my driveway, the ground trembled. Neighbors trickled outside, whispering and snapping pictures like something monumental had just arrived. And then came Karen, bursting from her front door like an angry wasp, face twisted in outrage. "What is that supposed to be?" she screeched, stomping toward me, flailing her arms like she owned the street. I leaned casually against the steel, letting her rage bounce off me. "Perfectly legal," I told her. "You didn't like my truck?" Fine, now I've got this. You can't tow it, you can't move it, and it doesn't break a single HOA rule. Her face went beet red. It's an eyesore, she barked. I smirked and said, then stop staring at it. She sputtered like an overheated kettle before storming back inside, slamming doors so hard I swear the cabinets rattled across the block. For the first time since I'd moved into that neighborhood, the balance of power shifted. She couldn't touch it, and she knew it. Days rolled by, and the container became the talk of the neighborhood. Kids climbed on it like a jungle gym. Teenagers posed for selfies. My buddies dubbed it Fort Freedom. Karen, though, she was unraveling fast. She called emergency HOA meetings, begged the board to add new restrictions, and even tried labeling it a public safety hazard. But every time she came at me, I slapped down paperwork proving it was all above board. Meanwhile, I still had my truck, safe at work sites during the day, brought home only when I needed it. Karen could glare from behind her blinds all she wanted, but the driveway fortress stood there every night, immovable and untouchable. But Karen wasn't the type to admit defeat. No, she switched tactics. Suddenly, flyers started popping up in everyone's mailboxes about community pride and protecting property values. She painted me as the neighborhood villain, single-handedly dragging everyone's homes down in value. She knocked on doors, canvassed like it was a political campaign, spewing her story about my junkyard container. What she didn't know, her plan was about to implode spectacularly. See, while she was busy spreading drama, I was transforming that container. Inside, I installed lighting, built workbenches, and lined the walls with racks of neatly organized tools. It became the most efficient little workshop I'd ever had. When curious neighbors peeked in, their jaws hit the floor. Suddenly, the eyesore was a hub of productivity. Folks started asking if I could fix broken chairs, build shelves, and patch up fences. My container shop turned into a neighborhood asset overnight. Word spread fast. Neighbors stopped by with thanks, some even offering to pay for my help. And then came the moment of pure irony. One afternoon, Karen's own husband walked over, sheepishly asking if I could fix their backyard fence. The look on Karen's face when she spotted him talking to me? Pure gold. She yanked him inside like he was a kid caught sneaking candy. The HOA board made one final attempt to shut me down, claiming I was operating a business. But by then, half the neighborhood was backing me. At the next meeting, residents spoke up one after another, defending me. They argued that my workshop added value, brought people together, and proved useful. Even the board couldn't deny it. Karen sat there fuming, face redder than a stop sign. But her influence had crumbled, and then, the cherry on top, I parked my truck back in the driveway right next to the container. This time I had cameras mounted, witnesses ready, and a full record of her harassment. If Karen so much as called a tow truck again, she'd be exposed in front of everyone. But she didn't. She pulled her blinds shut. No more whistle patrols. No more snide remarks. The street finally went quiet. My truck rested in peace. My workshop thrived, and Karen's reign finished. In the end, she taught me something she never meant to. Sometimes the best counter to a meddler is giving them something so big, so unmovable, it drives them crazy. She tried to take away my livelihood. Instead, she had to watch me build something unshakable right under her nose. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare or a Karen of your own? I'd love to hear it. And of course, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next wild story coming your way.